I am now immersed in work that I like a great deal. I think I'm suited to it, and I feel that I'm doing what I was always meant to do. It is work that I love, work that I do feel is a calling. I feel that I'm called forth from myself by someone or something, and I'm really lucky, and I'm really grateful. And I know other people have this experience or have had it, and they are similarly grateful. Yet I know also that many, many people do not have this experience. Perhaps, in fact, it is quite rare. And maybe we should acknowledge the limitations of work and cast our gaze wider when looking to be fulfilled. The exalted status that we give work has, of course, not always been present in history, nor is it present uniformly across the world today. In fact, the esteem with which we in the West hold work and the burden we place upon it to fulfill our souls, as well as feed, clothe and shelter us, is a peculiarly modern phenomenon, and it's a Protestant phenomenon. The medieval historian Jacques Le Goff says that in Catholic medieval Europe, careers such as we perceive them would have been considered ungodly, and the church tended to condemn all forms of secular activity. As well, the fatalism of medieval Catholic society meant that secular work as salvation was nigh impossible. Striving in your career would have seemed ungodly. It meant that you were possessed with enough vanity to attempt to take your fate into your own hands. And, of course, that's exactly what the Protestant project exalted, taking some things into your own hands. The interpretation of Scripture, our own personal relationship with God, unmediated by a priest. And so in turn, work for Protestants became a form of worshipping God, of offering back the fruits of his gifts. And this became the Protestant work ethic and became the inheritance of all who then were born into life in Northern Europe, North America, and eventually all of the West, and now the developing world too. Today, the Protestant work ethic sits in extremis in North America, but it is part of all of us, part of all of our lives in the industrialised West. If we are still conservatively Christian, then our work is our offering to a Protestant God. If we live in a more secular framework, then work is now a way by which we discover, realise and express ourselves, a kind of secular gospel for modern times. This has all been threatened, however, as we know in recent times. The global economic downturn has seen many people lose their jobs and many more become anxious about losing theirs. And this has led to some of us to change the way we think and feel about our jobs. And ironically and paradoxically, this can be liberating. The contemporary British philosopher Alain de Botton says of these times, "I think one of the things that happens in an economic downturn is that people are reminded that one of the good reasons to work is to put food on the table. In a weird way," he says, "the economic downturn reduces people's anxiety about the higher meaning because it reminds them quite brutally of that absolutely simple meaning, which is you don't work necessarily to realise yourself, have fun, etc. You work to live. And in an odd way, that reduction of choice can sometimes actually be a relief." Alain de Botton has written a very thought-provoking book titled The Pleasures and Sorrows of Work, in which he debunks some of the fantasies about the world of work and what it can actually offer us. In the book, he challenges the idea that all our jobs should be meaningful. He points out that not all our jobs are particularly meaningful. A meaningful job is one in which you feel you are either reducing a person's pain or increasing their pleasure. You are a doctor and you make them better. You are a singer and you make them happy. You heal and you inspire. But many jobs in the modern world, due to specialisation and forces such as globalisation, make this sense of meaning increasingly, if not virtually, impossible. These kind of jobs are so removed from the power to touch somebody or help somebody. He says, "If you are processing insurance forms, you are quite far down the line from the actual assistance. You are always delivering things, but you are so far away from the possibility that you might meet the people you are helping. So large organisations sort of leave people thinking, What is the meaning of all of this? In the course of the book, Alain de Botton visited and immersed himself in several kinds of workplaces. He went to a biscuit factory, a fish processing plant, a rocket launch pad, a company making fuel cables for aircraft, and an accountancy office. He found that much of this work often depressed people. It occasionally satisfied them, and often left them wondering why the hell they allowed it to consume so much of their lives.